Hey, yo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. This is the CHGO White Sox podcast. Welcome in to our West Loop studios. This is Studio A of CHGO. You can follow us on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox. You can follow CHGO Sports at CHGO_Sports. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Let's introduce my fellow co-hosts. We got Herb Lawrence to the left of me. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. I always cut you off with that. You want to say it again?
No.
Okay. Good. And we'll also be bringing in Vinnie Duber out in AZ. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber on Twitter. He's got great spring training updates on that account, I guess, and you could see live videos from BP, from warm-ups. He's tweeting out some great stuff. Dallas Keuchel getting blown up by Josh Harrison. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. And today is the final day of Guest Week. It is our 5th and final guest, and we are excited to bring into the weekend with some fun. We got from the 108, Chorizy-E. How you doing, man?
Good, man. You're going to go into the weekend. You got to have a couple drinks. You have a little happy hour here. I'm feeling good, man. I like what's going on. I am a little sad. There's only 3 chairs. You know, it's a beautiful studio, but could only afford 3 chairs. So Beef is sitting over there, but I promise you he's drinking.
He is drinking. He's drinking your Goose Islands that you guys brought. And you can go check out the 108 tourney presented by Goose Island. It's happening all this week. Started on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, it did.
Started on Wednesday, going today. We'll be going tomorrow. That's when my matchup is. Excited to talk to you guys about that. You can follow Chorizy on Twitter at Chorizy, Chorizy, or Chorizy-E. Which one is the legal name? Is it Chorizy or Chorizy-E?
So I'm Chorizy-E. But I didn't want to put any underscores or anything into my name, so I just went at Chorizy, much easier. If I put the E just at the end by itself, it looks like Chorizy, and it's some kind of weird Popeye thing. I'm not into that. So it's just Chorizy on Twitter, but it is Chorizy-E.
And we got some drinks going around. You guys brought drinks, just like Shaquia Taylor. You guys are now rising up the guest level. Two of our 5 guests did bring some beer. You guys do What Are You Drinking on the 108 podcast. So Herb, Chorizy, what are you guys drinking? Then I'll explain my beer.
So we got the Sox Golden Ale from Goose Island, which is a delicious golden ale. You get the nice Sox logo on it. There's a variant can too, if you could find it with the 83 logo. It's really nice.
Really?
Yeah. So it's
got like
hard,
the blue and red.
Hard to find. It's a white can with the 83 logo.
And we've been talking about this through the pod. Like, are you a fan of the 83s? Like, what's the favorite uniform for the Sox?
So I like the 83s, but I've had enough of them at this point, right? Like, I mean, like we've seen them a lot. Yes, man, indeed. I would love to see the late 80s come back, like the script, Chicago and the script White Sox, like, because I kind of grew up with that one. That was kind of the right when I was getting into baseball, and I love that jersey. And I think people don't like it because of the hat, and I think that the hat can make a comeback, and then we can that'll be a great one to have.
And speaking of that, we like to talk about baseball origins. Why and how did you become a White Sox fan? You're talking about the origins in '83. How did you and the great Beefloaf become White Sox fans? And I don't know if people know, you guys are brothers.
We are.
Not brothers, but brothers. But also.
And yeah, so I mean, like, we obviously we grew up in Bridgeport, so I mean that helps being that close to the stadium. We were on kind of the west side of Bridgeport over there, so it's a little further of a walk, So, but we would go to a couple games a year, like a handful of games a year, and just kind of fell in love with the sport. And then, like, I remember growing up just watching. You had to watch on like Sports Channel and stuff. I remember begging my parents to get cable. I won't comment on how street legal the cable was, but we eventually got it. And I think that was kind of when we started watching absolutely every game. And like, I just remember us, like, we would like write down the stats of the players because we didn't want to wait till the newspaper came in. And like, we just got engulfed in it when we were very young. And I still love it as much as I did then.
Well, I mean, clearly you guys still got season tickets. You guys got a whole podcast named after a section in Sox Stadium. Why don't you explain From the 108, the origins of that? I know Beef told me the story before, but for people who haven't heard it, what's up?
No, I mean, like, as soon as we had a few dollars to throw around, we were getting Sox tickets together. And I just remember me and Beef sitting down and we're just like looking at different sections, different seats, and we're just like, the one thing I wanted to make sure of that was that we weren't in the upper deck, because I'm a sad person who's afraid of heights, and like I always hated going up in the upper deck. And so I was like, I don't want to watch a game from there all the time. So we looked for the cheapest seats on the lower level. We found them in section 108. And they were aisle seats, so we were like even more pumped about them. And we're like, all right, great. We got seat 1 and 2 in the section. There's only like 4 rows in front of us because there's like the bullpen bar at the time was there. And so we get those to the park and we go sit in these seats, and the foul pole is legit right in front of us. Like, this cactus is in front of me right now. Like, the foul pole is in front of me in my seats like that. And we like sat there for like 5 minutes, and then we were like, yeah, this is great. That's fine. And so
you got that classic view.
And now, yeah. And I mean, now to me, it's that classic view. And for most of the rebuild, it was nice because you didn't want to see any of the pictures that were behind that foul pole. So it just kind of worked. It censored my rebuild viewing.
And for people who don't know, the 108 is you, your brother,
and my Sox summer.
Okay, and then there's auxiliary members outside there too. There
are associates. So like, one of the things that we wanted to do when we started doing the blog. So me and Beef sat in those seats for about 7-8 years before we did any type of blog. Mm-hmm. And in that time, we met my Sox summer. He was dating one of my friends, and she brought him to a game. She was like, I think you guys will love this guy. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, we'll see, And then we met him, and we're like, this guy, you better marry him, Like, this guy's awesome. And so fast forward to like 2016, the things that we had been seeing in the stands and like the experiences that we were having in the game, we were like, we should just jot this down, just not even for anyone to read, just so that we don't forget about it with our beer-addled brains, And so we started doing the blog and just telling what was happening in the park, what we would like to happen in the park, all these different things, talking about some baseball, some fan experience. And like, people just started to really get into it. And one of the things that we always tried to do was basically say to people, like, look, if you're that person that has like all your friends don't care about baseball, or all your friends are Cubs fans and no one's going to go to a Sox game with you, there is a section where you buy one ticket. You buy a ticket for yourself, you show up in that section, and you're amongst friends. And that has been kind of the mantra since day one. And it went from, people buy one ticket for a game in that section to like a lot of people have bought season tickets in that section. Our guys like Aloha Mr. Hand and Wally Money and Matt Nommenson and a whole bunch of others.
You can't forget Bruhan Luke.
Bruhan Luke, he's writing those beer blogs for us. I can't forget about him. Yeah, I mean, like all these guys just start sitting in that section. I mean, and it's just awesome. And so you go to that game, and now there's still plenty of places. Grab a ticket, come sit with us, man. It's going to be a great time. Now we're gonna watch some great baseball, which is even better.
Finally,
yeah. And it's weird too, because you go to the seating chart and try to get seats over there. Sparse. And I think you guys have built that place up. As you said, there's people who have bought season tickets over there. Whenever I go and visit, it's always packed. The ones right around it, like the Goose Island, whatever they call it now, the bar, and then the 110 and 111. Like, I bought tickets to 111 over there free. Like, people were just like, there's tickets everywhere, just so I can be close to you guys, because there was 0 tickets for the game I was available for the 108. You guys made that section. Did the White Sox call you and say, hey, man, we want to thank you, here's a day or something like that?
Named
that
after you? Something. Yeah, where's the plaque?
They've actually been pretty nice to us.
Okay.
And like, what was funny was we saw one of the ticket guys, like, I'm in the famed section 108, you should come buy tickets in this section. And we're like, wait, that's not our ticket guy. Like, our ticket guy should be getting that. Like, But yeah, I mean, like, it's fun. And like, I think they've been, pretty good about it. We got to interview Brooks Boyer, which was, the kind of access we did not expect. So, that was cool.
So we got to talk a little bit about the 108 tourney. You hated the idea, is from what I understand. There's a reason why I'm drinking a 2014 beer too, in honor of your brother who drinks expired beer.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain why you didn't like the 108 tourney, if you're a fan of it now, and what's the vibe of it, now in 2022?
Yeah, for sure. So, the 108 tourney. So to just give a background of what the 108 tourney is an idea that Beef Loaf had, and he was like, I think we've got a lot of interesting people on Twitter, and this is years ago. So, and he's like, we should do a tournament where they face off against each other and people vote for who, which account they like better, and me and My Sock Summer didn't hate the idea of the tournament itself. We were like, that sounds like a lot of work and I don't want to do a lot of work. So if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. And I swear to God, we have a yearly meeting where we come up with, we try to come up with a bunch of ideas, just kind of write down a whole bunch of ideas for the next year and then try and do as many of them as we can. And so this happened at one of those meetings, and it was at Bader Brow back in the day, RIP in peace. I woke up the next day and I didn't remember anything about this tournament. And so a week later, Beef's like, I'm putting together the bracket for the tournament, and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because it was like December. And I'm just like, the NCAA tournament is so far away. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just going to let it go, and we'll see what he's talking about eventually. And he sent me the thing, and I was like, oh, yes, we talked about this. And I was like, that still seems like a lot of work. I don't want to be involved. And so, but now, after seeing it, after seeing it play out, and then, we've done it for years now, the amount of people that get new followers and the way that it kind of builds the White Sox Twitter community is so awesome that I can't help but just love it. It's awesome. We were tweeting about something the other day, and one of the guys who lost in the first round said,
Was it beef?
No. I didn't say humiliated in the first round. I said lost in the first round. And so one of the guys lost in the first round was like, I gained 200 followers since you announced that I was in the tournament. And I'm like, that's what this is about. This is go out and this is a way to find a bunch of people in the White Sox Twitter community that you want to follow and hear from them and interact with them. And some of the people you're going to follow, and you're going to go I shouldn't have followed this account. You just click a button on follow. It's nice.
You can remove followers too, which
that's and that's so I think I've fallen in love with it because of what it does for the White Sox Twitter community.
And at the start of this, I know you guys probably didn't think that it would be what it is now and growing. In your wildest dreams, did you ever think that it would be this? From the 108 is a thing. Every White Sox fan, I think, knows about you guys and From the 108 and pays homage, goes over to you, says what's up. Steven Nelson from the MLB Network came over and it's like, hey, guys, just wanted to say what's up.
In a rain delay.
Yeah.
So he trudged through the rain to come do it. I was overly impressed by that. I definitely didn't expect it to be what it is, especially because some of the things that we're doing, we have a weekly podcast. We had actively said we're never going to do a podcast. We're just not. Everyone does a podcast. We're not going to do a podcast. We'll sit in the hot tub and talk about this stuff. And Josh Nelson, who we've become really close friends with, shamed me into it. He was like, "Dude, you're a musician. You know how to do all this stuff. Just do it. You should have a podcast. What's wrong with you?" And I was like, I almost cried. And I just said, okay, fine, I'll make a podcast. And then, and next thing you know, people were actually paying attention to it. And I think, we started doing it live on YouTube because we're like, part of this is you've got to see us drinking and My Sock Summer's internet freezing up and you got to really experience the whole thing. Beef showing up with no shirt on sometimes, it's a whole experience. So we try and make it like that. And I think I did not expect people to like it. I'm very happy they do. And I'm very happy that a lot of people who may have thought, there's not White Sox fans like me, weird. They now know there are, and that they know the place to go to be weird at the Sox game.
There's thousands of weirdos on Sox
Yes!
Twitter, so that's what I found out. Let's get into some baseball before we'll get into some more baseball about you, and then we'll get into some more larger baseball conversation. If we've been asking this to all of our guests, who's your favorite former White Sox, and then who's your favorite current White Sox?
Yeah, so my favorite former. This was tough because I wish Jose Canseco would have played longer for the Sox because he would definitely be number one. I love Jose Canseco. I love all the steroids. I love it all.
Can I bring up something
I love
too?
The Bigfoot stuff.
So not only are you on Canseco, you were also on the A-Rod train for the White Sox to sign him, right?
Yes, I was. Towards the end of his career, I was like, you're in a rebuild. Why not just grab this guy as a DH? That would be fun.
Exactly.
Have him hit like home run number, 600 and 700 in a Sox jersey. Just let him drag on and be here and just get all the media attention of this guy hitting monstrous amounts of home runs.
That's a Sox tradition, getting guys who are way past their prime to end their careers. John Kruk, Ken Griffey Jr.
I was at the
Jose
first
Canseco.
I was absolutely at the Ken Griffey Jr. game when the first time he played, and Soul Glow played as his song coming up. I almost lost my mind. So Canseco would be, but he didn't spend enough time. The guy though I always think of when I'm asked this question is Ozzie Guillen, because Ozzie Guillen was on those teams when I was a kid. So I was born in 1980. So as I was just starting to watch the White Sox, Ozzie Guillen was young on that team. Obviously, it was a different game. And so Ozzie Guillen was a star. And on top of that, Ozzie Guillen looked like he could be one of my uncles, right? I think people discount how much that can affect a kid, seeing someone that looks like them, that has an accent like their grandfather, right? Like you go, I know what this guy's about. I like this. And then, he was a great player for the Sox. And of course, in a different era, he was great at different things. If you sign that guy now, I'd be like, why are we doing this? I don't want Yolmer Sanchez. But watching him throughout that, and then he comes back and wins a World Series as a manager, he's at the top for me. And plus his personality is insane. Mm-hmm. So I will catch, as much as I can of him being wild on the internet too.
Well, and I thought too, if they retire Jose's number, that's the 12th retired number, and then they should retire the 13th number as 13. I think he deserves it, and we've talked about it on this podcast.
I mean, as someone who goes to all the games and whenever they're going to have a bunch of the former players out on the field for something so when Mark Burley was honored, we were at that game, and if you see the applause that Ozzie Guillen gets, the way that people get excited just at the name of Ozzie Guillen and just at him standing up and waving to the crowd, it's insane that he doesn't have his jersey retired. The Chicago fans love him that much. So I agree with you. That would be perfect. 13th, number 13. I love it.
And who's your current favorite White Sox player?
So it's got to be Eloy.
Okay.
So Eloy, again, this is part of being at the end. Man, I finally get to see him more this season. But at the end of last season, he's out in left field, and I don't know if they show this on TV because being at the game, I don't know how much they show of him out there. He pumps up the crowd between pitches. Like he's a football player. It's amazing. And the left field is going nuts. And I was like, could we get something like this in right field? I would love it.
You're not getting that from Vaughn.
Adam Engel, come on now.
Was he out there looking for his hamstring? So Eloy is, I love him. And since maybe 2 years ago, I've been going to PointsBet because one of our sponsors. I go in there and they have the name a bet thing, and I do Eloy 74 home runs or over 73 and a half home runs. I put in there. They've never allowed me to do it. I'm dying. Come on, guys, let me bet this. Let me bet this. Why not let me bet this?
And hopefully they see this and they're able to get that prop posted. Let Chorizy bet 73 and a half home runs for Eloy in 2022. The best way to support CHGO, funny enough, is to use the PointsBet app and to download the PointsBet app and you use code CHGO when you sign up. If you do that right now, you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. So if you want to put a $50, a bet down on Eloy to hit over 73.5,
if they let you,
yeah, it could be risk-free. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making a first-time deposit of $50 or more at PointsBet. If you have any questions, you can email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we will help you out. It's your home for live in-play betting, and it just got even better with the live same-game college basketball same-game parlays. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. And my favorite feature of PointsBet is boosting your odds. If you like your odds, you can make them even better once a day through PointsBet. And sign up is now available online in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from your phone, all from start to finish. Plus, during PointsBet's Match Madness, all users can earn up to $100 in free bets. During each round, just place a $50 pregame wager and get a free $20 live bet to be used for that round. So what are you waiting for once the game starts? Don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. We want to mention CHGO. Obviously, we're having Chorizy here as our guest in the CHGO studios. We are so excited to see the live chat rolling through. If you want to become a member for CHGO, check out allchgo.com. But you guys have brought all of your people in here. We got
see him.
Bill Vickers, who's shit talking Wet Bandit, but also Bill can't keep a Twitter account around.
It's unfortunate.
Wet Bandit can at least stay on Twitter, Bill. But a lot of great people in there, and Shane Spagnola is going to be in your tournament next year. So
Lil Yumper, who's a
Cub fan.
He's a Discord member though. Mm-hmm. He's a part of CHGO. I've talked to him on that. It's good to see these people. Fred, who's always here.
Yep. And our guy, Zach Byrne, who says, from the 108 and Lockdown Sox got me through the last 2 seasons. Great community. And that's what we're trying to build here at CHGO.
And Alex Rude, ILL.
And he was all mad that you weren't wearing your Illini gear. What's happening?
Underneath. This shirt is an actual Illini shirt.
Oh, there you go. So
it's underneath. It's painted on.
I wore it. Yes,
he's in full body paint.
I wore it yesterday.
He showed it to us.
And it's coming up, guys. So if you just see me disappear, I'm over there. I'm just over there, off camera a little bit.
And let's go to the other guy that's off camera, our guy, Vinnie Duber. He's out in Arizona. You can follow him on Twitter, @Vinnie Duber. We got to Vinnie a little bit late, but let's catch up. We got spring training the first Friday that you're down there in spring training. Vinnie, it's almost been a week of spring training. How's it been treating you?
All day, every day, nothing but baseball and sunshine. You can't beat that, right? I think, Sean, I noticed you're drinking the Labatt Blue there. Mm-hmm. We got a little Canadian mind meld going on as I'm rocking the Rush tee today. So,
oh, hell yeah. Favorite Rush album?
Favorite. You know what? Weirdly enough, I like the first one, which Neil Peart is not on, but the first one is very good. So,
is it 2112?
Working man on it.
You're not a Bruce Miles guy who loves Rush.
He does. That's true. 2112 is good, obviously. My favorite song in there, Passage to Bangkok. That's a good one. I was listening to that earlier.
Going deep cuts.
Yeah, I can't go that steep with Vinny on any music. I checked out Vinny's last FM, and he has like 60,000 songs he listens to.
And speaking of another guy who loves music.
I figured Vinny just listens to Foghat on repeat. Like with the look, I feel like that was like that's your money. That's your money go-to band. Like it feels like, or Blue Oyster Cult maybe.
No, you nailed it the first time there with Foghat. I think I got the first 6 albums all on vinyl. They're in heavy rotation, no doubt about it.
Oh man, I went to a show at Double Door for Halloween. It was the Las Vegas doing Foghat for it. Like it was, Local H would do these shows where they do all covers and bands show up and they dress up and do the part. And Las Vegas came on and did Foghat. 30-minute set, 2 songs.
The only Foghat song I know is Slow Ride, yeah, that's the only one I know. What else? I mean, are they known for like Into God and Evita songs that are 15 minutes long?
Well, their songs are long and like live too. I mean, you could just wail on those solos. So yeah, I mean, it was 2 15-minute songs, and Slow Ride was one of them.
Well, there's your homework, Vinny, for this weekend. Spin some Foghat. But update us on what's been happening in spring training. Any big news today that we need to know about and Sox fans need to know about?
Wouldn't go as far to say big news, but some interesting stuff from talking to, we got to talk to Ethan Katz today. So, we basically ran down the entire roster, going pitcher by pitcher and getting his thoughts on those guys. Some more insight into maybe what they're going to do when it comes to Kopech, when it comes to Crochet. I think White Sox fans might be most interested in his answer about Garrett Crochet, saying, they might treat him a little bit like Kopech, with obviously he's got that future that they plan to be a starting pitcher. They might treat him a little bit like they did Kopech last year, but one big difference, he's a lefty. There's only 2 lefties in the White Sox bullpen. So you can't, he was saying last year we could throw Kopech 2 or 3 innings and we could say, all right, sit down for a few days. We'll get to you in a few days. And they didn't need to, there was no emergency. They didn't need him because they had all these other righties. Crochet is going to be a different situation, because if they do that for him and then they sit him down for 2 days and they need somebody besides Aaron Bummer, to throw the ball out of the left hand, and he's not available, that could be a problem. So I think it's an added wrinkle into getting Garrett Crochet ready for his future as a starter. But I think everybody right now knows that if the White Sox are going to win the World Series this year, they're going to need Garrett Crochet in that bullpen, and he's looked good so far.
And I know you asked him about Dylan Cease, specifically his mustache, and how dare him tell him that Dylan Cease's mustache is terrible. Come on now. But did he say anything else about Dylan Cease and how he's progressed in the offseason?
Interestingly, nothing to worry about. I want to prep everybody here first, but it sounds like Dylan wasn't able to throw to batters during the lockout like some of the other White Sox starters were. So he might be just the tiniest bit behind guys like Lance Lynn, Dallas Keuchel, and Lucas Giolito, who were able to do that during the lockout. I think Ethan said, not being able to talk to the guys during the lockout, that maybe hurt Cease, or hurt him for Cease more than anybody, because it would have been somebody who really could have benefited from that constant communication. I think in terms of Dylan, though, the thing that should get White Sox fans excited is what Ethan said, which is, I liked what he did last year, but he's got a lot left to get to and to show. And I mean, considering the guy led the team in strikeouts and by the end of the year was as, reliable a starter as they had, Katz and the White Sox know that Dylan Cease is going to be relied on quite a bit here in 2022. And I think the excitement is that they think not only can he do what he did last year again, but there's a whole nother level that he can get to as well.
And Chorizy, I forgot to tell you, we were having so much fun before the show. Usually it goes, I ask a question, Herb asks a question, then you'll ask a question. So I'll ask Vinny a question. If you have a question for Vinny, throw it out there. But Vinny, did Ethan say anything bad about your mustache? Just Cease's?
No, it was just about Cease's, but I mean, saying that right to my face and not mentioning it, I feel like there was maybe a little undercurrent there. I might have to talk to Ethan about that, but it was, he called it terrible. For those who didn't see the tweet, he called Cease's mustache terrible. And you can kind of tell that that's kind of the opinion within the White Sox clubhouse, because I think Lucas Giolito, when we asked him about it the other day, just started laughing. So I'm not sure if people are as sold on Dylan's mustache as we might be.
People who make fun of mustaches are people who can't grow mustaches.
Yeah, man. I might go mustache for opening day now with all this mustache slander. I'll tell you, man, that's upsetting. Vinny, I do have a question. So if you talk to Katz today, and a guy that I'm interested to see kind of understand what was behind the signing and what they plan to do with him, even pitch-wise, is Vince Velasquez. He's a guy, to me, that has way too many pitches, kind of like Javi Vasquez back in the day, where you're just like going like, if he just narrowed this down to like 2 or 3 pitches, maybe it would be a lot better for him. And in a relief role, maybe that's what they're going for. Did he expound at all on that signing, if he was behind that signing or why he's here?
He is very excited to work with them. I'll tell you that much. I think what I can kind of gather from everybody that's talked on him, be it Rick or Tony or Ethan, is that they've had their eye on this guy for a while. Not necessarily in we need him on this pitching staff, but just impressed by him as a talent. And I think, there's a reason that this guy has stuck around the major leagues while the numbers have not been what anyone would consider successful numbers, particularly in the last few years. I can tell you right now, watching his bullpens, he whips the ball in there. He throws really hard. And that's noticeable. And I think folks will probably even notice that, from the outfield camera on the broadcast. But I think what it comes down to is, remember for all those years we heard, wait till Don Cooper gets his hands on him and he'll fix him. I think that in not a joking way, that's being applied to Ethan Katz and Velasquez, just because we obviously saw what he did with Cease and Rodon last year. And not that should be expected to be replicated, But you've got a guy that you brought in to this organization in Katz to be able to do that kind of thing, to be able to turn pitchers who maybe aren't, the slam dunk obvious, they're going to go out and win the Cy Young guys, into guys that can be relied upon. I think the main thing to remember with Velasquez is that his role is not expected to be gigantic, but it is going to be very important, especially in the early going, because these starting pitchers, I think Ethan said today, maybe the expectation is they'd go 5 innings on opening day, and that's very unusual compared to a regular season. So you're going to have, multiple innings in every game that you might have thought would have been eaten up by your starting pitcher that are more maybe going to have to be relied upon for Velasquez. And Katz specifically mentioned Kopech, too, as somebody who might not even get to that 5-inning mark right out of the gate or throughout the early portion of the season because of the way they're going to be managing his workload. So somebody like Velasquez and obviously Reynaldo Lopez, who we haven't mentioned, but I think would probably be ahead of Velasquez on that depth chart, if so to speak, are going to be very important. And when it comes to Velasquez, Katz is going to very much focus on working with him and trying to turn him into somebody that you can rely on out of the bullpen.
Sean Ross wants to let you know that he's jealous of your Rush shirt, by the way. And since we're on the Katz thing, his guy, Lucas Giolito, coming in beefed up, 20 to 25 pounds of muscle. Did he say anything about what that weight will do for Giolito? Because I know Giolito said it was more about balance and more about making sure that he was able to stay strong with his motions and not about velocity. But I think you tweeted out, or someone tweeted out, that he was up to 96, 97 today in his bullpen.
Yeah, it was actually yesterday in the live BP or like yesterday in the pre-live BP bullpen or whatever. But yeah, 96, 97, sitting 96, 97. So, I mean, listen, Lucas Giolito, I think, bulked up to avoid injury and to maybe kind of make sure that he is in a better place balance-wise with his body. He said the other day, if I throw 100, great, which, you're like, oh, yeah, that would be great. But and I think what you're hearing from Ethan and Tony both today was that he's strong. He's stronger. And so, that can only be better from an athletic standpoint. And it's obviously going to have the expected effects on velocity. If you got more weight and more muscle behind it, you're going to throw the ball a little harder. That's I'm pretty sure that's physics, but I'd have to remember all the way back to high school for that. But yeah, no, Lucas is looking strong. And from what the guy's saying, he's pitching strong too, which I think is of interest.
I don't have a serious question, Vinny. I just want to know if you play your air guitar way up here.
So I've actually been told I don't play it all the way up here. No, I play it down at regular level. But what I've been told is that as I consume more adult beverages, the guitar gets smaller. If you go on throughout the evening, you're ending up doing all your solos all the way down here, no matter what the notes are.
You're just hitting all those high notes, man. That sounds good to me.
That's how you do a great solo in a bar. So yeah, that's what I think.
Since we have two bassists, or I don't know if you're a bassist, Vinny, but you're big into music. Chorizy-E's a bassist himself. He's got the Barren Plains that he plays in. So we'll go with non-serious. It's a Friday. We can take a day off from hard baseball talk. Favorite bassist of all time, Chorizy. We'll start with you, and Vinny, if you got an answer, think
I'm
on it.
gonna have one too.
Okay, we'll go Chorizy, Herb, Vinny.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna. Even though I play a Rick, I'm not gonna take Geddy Lee. I'm gonna take Geezer Butler. So Geezer Butler's probably from Black Sabbath. I listen to his bass lines and I can't even believe that someone's playing them. Like they're just like they don't even belong in the song, but they fit. Like it's that kind of thing. And I can't get enough of him playing bass.
I'm going to go with Mark King from Level 42. He learned to slap bass from Larry Graham, the inventor of the slap bass, and I just love his albums. If you ever listen to Level 42, Lessons in Love, Something About You, and they're the deeper cuts, he's awesome. He's just like does a solo bass. You probably haven't heard him. It's the 80s band, Level 42. It's an English 80s band. Vinny?
Yeah, me and Sean Ross are on the exact same wavelength here. It's got to be John Entwistle from The Who, no doubt about it. It's funny. Yes. I'm listening to a podcast right now that's history of rock and roll, and they're on my generation, and going through John Entwistle and those fills in my generation are pretty fantastic, pretty epic, and carried through all the way their career. So I'm going with The Who on that one. Who probably pound for pound, I'd say, had the best rhythm section of all time in Keith Moon and John Entwistle there. So that's where I'm going.
It's hard to argue with that rhythm section. Just incredible, and like. They made Pete Townsend so rich. It's unbelievable. It's like when I steal all the 108 money from Beef and My Sox Summer, they're basically Entwistle and Moon over there. Hopefully better ending than Moon.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm glad I brought that up too, because I mean, you're enjoying a beer, we're talking baseball, and that's true bullshit right there. Let's get into some more serious stuff. Scott Merkin, you had an exclusive with Tim Anderson, and he mentioned that he wants to win something dope for Jose Abreu next year. And then Scott Merkin got to talk to Tim Anderson too, and Tim Anderson said he wants to be a Sox for life. And then at 10 a.m., the White Sox tweet out this video of Tim Anderson getting ready to at least make an announcement. It's like an 18-second video where he's sitting down and he's about to say something. And they teased it for March 22nd, 2022. So we've talked a little bit about this White Sox for life concept, one of them being Giolito, one of them being Abreu. Let's talk about Tim Anderson now, especially after he made these comments. Vinny, I want to go to you first because obviously there's been comments and talks about an Anderson extension for a while. He won't be a free agent until 2025. But what's the vibe in the organization and in the clubhouse right now about Tim Anderson being a White Sox for life?
Well, I'll tell you this, he certainly should be. That's just my opinion on it. But I mean, this guy's the face of the franchise. He's, as much as people might roll their eyes when I tweet stuff like this, I think he's very much one of the faces of baseball with what he's been able to do from a, having fun standpoint the last few years, the bat flips, and obviously that incredible moment in the Field of Dreams game. I don't know how national folks couldn't be, taking notice of this guy at this point. But here in Chicago, and especially on the South Side, he's a guy who is 100% the face of the franchise, and they have just taken everything that he's about and made it their marketing campaign, right? Made it what this team is about. Herb, we talk about it all the time. He's the guy on this team. He makes them go from a baseball and a non-baseball standpoint. So certainly when it comes to deserving to be that guy, he should be. The White Sox should be wanting to do that because it's just, a PR success story waiting to happen to have him in that same uniform for his entire career. Now, that all being said, Sean, I'm going to go ahead and play my usual role here of debunking your conspiracy theories with that tweet that was sent out today. No, I don't see it. That's that would be a very unusual thing to do for not only the White Sox, but any real team, to kind of keep a contract extension under their hat for several days moving forward and have nothing about that get out at all. This strikes me something as more of a collaboration with Tim. Tim, we know from following him on social media, is all about kind of the branding aspect of being a pro athlete as much as he is the baseball part of being a pro athlete. So yeah, maybe we're seeing something like, I know the White Sox have that clothing line, that 35th and Shields clothing line. Maybe something like that is coming to the Chicago Sports Depot, or think about, maybe there's an in-depth interview with him coming that's going to drop in a few, several parts or something like that. That seems more something that is, social media ready than something as newsy as a contract extension. And obviously I'll let you guys respond, but we've got some comments from Rick Hahn on this exact topic from back in November when we talked to him at the GM meetings.
Yeah, let's read that. He said, I don't think Tim's a pressing matter right now with a few more years of control, but Tim's been outstanding for us, similar to Lucas in terms of his leadership and the way he represents us off the field and performance on that. That was obviously a guy we signed early in his career to a long-term deal, and he's rewarded us ever since. And the Giolito's brought up there because the questions before the question about Tim Anderson being extended was about a Giolito extension. So, nothing too connective there outside of the fact that they both can be extended. I want to go to you guys, though, because something we've talked about is the White Sox like to work in the dark, Herb. They like to work under pressure. And Vinny, you've brought this up many times. When they do extensions, it's early in the season. They like to get them done and out of the way as quick as possible. So do you think it's on Rick Hahn's mind, Herb, that a Tim Anderson extension could be possible?
I don't think he is worried about that too tough. Like they said, he's still signed for a couple more years, so it's not a pressing matter. It would be a thing that would be great for White Sox fans to hear. It's nice goodwill. I mean, the whole Tim Anderson story, from him playing basketball, not playing basketball anymore, and then picking up baseball as a junior, and then like the White Sox picking up from drafting him from a community college down there. It's a really great story, and it should be a movie eventually. Tim is Chicago now. Like, he lives in the city or lives in the surrounding areas. He has his family here. He exudes Chicago. Like when you think about the White Sox, you think about Tim Anderson first. At least I do.
Yeah.
And if you were to lock him up for the rest of his career or whatever, give him a long-term deal, I think every White Sox fan would be like, that's what we need. Like, that's our leader. Like, Jose Abreu might be the captain, but when I think about White Sox and I think about the attitude on this team, TA is the guy. He makes everything go.
Herb, what do you think, man? Like, so if we're looking at market value for a shortstop of his caliber, you're probably in the $20 million range, right? I mean, like that's about where you'd be. I mean, like,
and I mean, on the open market, I don't know what Tim makes, but he's kind of like Jose Abreu. Like, he's more valuable to the White Sox than he is on the open market.
And I think Chicago is valuable to him.
Yes.
Right? Like, if you're talking about branding, which is something that Major League Baseball is awful at, and so are Major League Baseball players. Like, the fact that no one outside of baseball fans knows who Mike Trout is ridiculous. And that the Angels need money somehow. It's like, I think that like Tim Anderson in Chicago, being a star in Chicago is huge, and I think he knows that. I think the team knows that. And if I were guessing at what this video from Bridgeport Arts Center is, I could tell by the tree lines. I grew up three blocks away. I would say that they're building towards that. And that I could see after this season, when he gets into the 14 and a half, like 12 and a half, 14 and a half years, that they could go, let's do 7 and 126, and we're going to pay you like $18 million a year, and you're just going to be here until you're, in your mid 30s. I think that makes all the sense in the world. He's a player that's going to age well, even if he ages out of shortstop. That guy at third base with that cannon, it's going to be fine. And he can, if he sits back a little bit and hits for more power when he goes to third, I'm here for it.
And like you said earlier, baseball's dwindling in their African-American stats, and when you see a person that you see that, hey, he looks like me. I mean, when I was a kid, I saw a lot of black guys playing baseball, and they were superstars. Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr., Tony Gwynn, all around the baseball. Now it's dwindling. You see Tim Anderson, and he's unapologetically black and unapologetically himself. Now, I think that's why he's become a good player, because after his friend died, got killed a couple years ago, he's like, F it, life's short. Why would I be in a box what baseball wants me to be in? Let me be who I am. Let me throw my bat. Let me have a good time. We're playing a game. So I think the freeing of himself from being the baseball guy and being himself has made his game right, and people can see that. Like, everybody gravitates to him. Like, there's not a white dude, black dude, Mexican dude who doesn't like Tim Anderson, who's a White Sox fan. They love his antics. It's awesome.
If I told someone that Tim Anderson grew up on the south side of Chicago, they'd believe it.
Like,
they would absolutely believe it in 1 second.
Absolutely.
81st and Sagamon? Yeah, hell yeah.
And it's interesting you bring up the contract situation. Right now with shortstops, Lindor makes the more, $34.1 million this year. Seager makes the second most, $33 million. Bogart's at $20 million. Baez at $20 million. And then it drops off. Turner, 18.5. Crawford at 16. Gregorius at 15.2. Tim's on this list at 9 at 9.5. So,
a deal.
Yeah, it is a deal. But even then, at that point when they reached out to him and made that extension, he wasn't that player. You talk about the growth that he has made. And I just watched a piece about Jackie Robinson just the day ago from Foolish Baseball. And they talked about, what his college career was, Jackie Robinson. His worst sport was baseball. Yeah. He batted like 097 at UCLA. He was horrible, and he was like, a star track guy, a star basketball player, a star football player. So it is interesting because I do think that, Tim really hasn't had his best season yet, which I think is the most scary thing.
If you think about it, like in terms of like structured baseball that he's been a part of, he's like 11 years in. Bryce Harper was 11 years into that when he was 12 years old. Right? I mean, like, so like it's a very huge gap of like the learning curve on this, and his ability to start learning at such a late age and becoming as good as he is. And like every year something gets better with Tim.
Right.
And nothing else drops off either.
Yeah.
So all the rest of the stuff stays at the level or goes higher.
It's a joy to watch, and again, he's a guy who brands himself very well and can recognize that, being in Chicago is better than being in another city. Like, maybe Atlanta is a better, like a comparable city, but like there's not many that I think that would be a perfect city for Tim to be in, and I just hope that they take advantage of it and that he takes advantage of it and they make this official. I'm not going to guess they do it this year, but I think they build to it, and in the off season, that's a huge sign right there.
Yeah, the only thing that really stuck out to me was when they had March 22, 2020 was the fact that they used Tim Anderson's like brand fonts. Like the March, the A in the March had a very specific Tim Anderson A. So, I mean, again, I'm a crazy White Sox fan, and of course I want Tim Anderson to be a lifelong White Sox fan because it makes jersey buying easy as hell for me. But Vinny, let's go out to you because I want to talk about Tim as a leader. Zach Greinke just signed with the Royals. I watched his introduction press conference to KC, or reintroduction press conference to KC, and he talked about how leaders, really form at the start of the season. Leadership in the White Sox clubhouse. Is it Tim Anderson, and is it clearly Tim Anderson, or is there like an interesting dichotomy because obviously Pito's there as well? What's leadership like in that clubhouse that you've observed?
Yeah, I think it's multiple people, and I think too you got to remember that there are different groups of people in that clubhouse. I think Jose Abreu is so valuable as a leader to everybody, as I was just mentioning yesterday, but valuable as a mentor that can be joined at the hip to those young Latin guys, right? And then I think you look at a guy like Lance Lynn, who's comes in. He hasn't been here as long as those other guys, but he has the veteran experience to go along with the personality to really take the pitching staff, under his wing entirely. I talked last year to now a former White Sox pitcher, Cody Hoyer, who had just talked endlessly about how Lance Lynn was there with him for all those bullpens and talking to him about everything that was going on. So Tim Anderson is the obvious, and I think he's been here so long, and I think everybody gravitates toward him like you guys were talking about. Two bits that I got last year that really jumped out to me was when this White Sox team was ready to go from rebuilding to contending. It was spring training of 2020. Joe McEwing told me that Tim Anderson went into then manager Rick Renteria's office and said, "Thanks for getting us here. We got it from here. We're going to take over. We're going to take over this, the leadership aspect of this. We're going to take over this team, and we're going to be the ones who are going to push toward that World Series goal." And then last year, too, when Billy Hamilton comes in and joins the team, Billy Hamilton, very famously, is not somebody whose offense can match his defense or his speed. But Billy Hamilton hated hearing that. And Billy Hamilton had gotten to the point where he started believing it because he heard it so much. And it took Tim Anderson to say, no, you believe in yourself. You do what you think you can do. I'm going to be here to supply the confidence with you as well. I think you can do this, and I think you need to think that you can do this. And, it didn't maybe necessarily show up in the results. Billy had a few nice moments throughout the year, but it's just that attitude, and I think that's what Tim Anderson brings to everybody. We talked about it earlier this week when they added Josh Harrison. Josh Harrison sounds a lot like that, and that, this confidence, this whole I don't care how many times you've struck me out in a row, I'm going to get you this time kind of thing. That's what everybody says about Tim Anderson, and to have that attitude, that is a leadership attitude. You throw on top of it the fact that he's the leadoff hitter and he can physically, tangibly get things going from the leadoff spot, but then intangibly, he's the guy on the top step of the dugout telling everybody, let's go, let's do it. And Herb, you absolutely nailed it. In every aspect of his life, not just his game, he decided, I'm going to be me and I'm not going to apologize for it. And it shows up in fun ways like with the bat flip, and stuff like that. But it shows up in very baseball ways too. Like, Tim Anderson doesn't walk very much. And Tim Anderson doesn't care that he doesn't walk very much because it means he's going to get some hits. He's going to get more hits than if he tried to walk. He's going to win a batting title and hit over 300. His game is what his game is. Would he like to maybe make a few fewer errors in the field? Yeah, he would like that, but he's not going to stop making the plays that nobody else can make with his athleticism in order to, just shave down on a few errors. And I think that unapologeticness needs to be appreciated, not just from his personality and the stuff that he does that makes everybody cheer, but actual baseball as well. And you can see it mirrored in his game as well as in his life.
Well, and it's interesting you bringing that up about like the defense part too. He's improving defensively. You look at his hitting, like 2019, 2020 were his two best years, and 2021 he was still an above average hitter. But last year was his most valuable position or season because of his defense.
I'm kind of excited to see, this is maybe the one thing that I'm most excited about seeing Josh Harrison in the middle of the infield with Tim Anderson about is that Harrison is an excellent fielder. And like if he can show Timmy just a few things, you know, just kind of bring that defense up a little bit. You know, we were talking about music earlier. You know, you look at guys when they go play in bands with guys that are just incredible musicians. They're like, oh man, I got better just playing with that guy. Like I can't imagine what's going to happen if Harrison and Timmy get together and are really working well together. Kind of like when you saw Cease talking about Lance Lynn and showing him things. I would love to see Lance Lynn show Vince Velasquez what's wrong with his four-seamer. Like, there's some guys on this team that are older now that we're bringing in, and if they can work with some of these younger guys, and that one is the one that I'm most interested to see is how does Timmy's defense elevate working with Josh Harrison day in, day out.
Yeah, I'm interested to pick your brain on our next topic, too. But first, we got to pay the bills. If you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we will help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. You'll be signing up the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for once the game starts? Don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Let's move into the next topic. And we had Josh Nelson on yesterday, and I drove him home, funny enough. And he mentioned that I need to bring up your baseball mind. He's very high on your baseball mind. We've seen it, on effect right now. It's been a show for the past, hour. Great baseball mind you have, Chorizy. When we talk about the White Sox and spending money, how do you view the Sox and their, I guess, hesitancy to go out and make a big splash? They've never had a franchise player signed for, or a player signed for over $100 million for a single contract. Are you happy with the way that the offseason is gone? What's your vibe?
Well, it's funny, right? Because I hear this all the time of like, hey, the Sox never spend $100 million on a guy. It's like, well, yeah, but if you spend $70 million on 9 guys, that adds up, right? Like, so what you're seeing right now is, I think we've all heard the phrase, the money will be spent. The money has been spent. Mm-hmm. We're the top 5 payroll at this point.
Going to be 6 soon after the Phillies signed Castellanos.
Well, the Phillies are already in. Are the Phillies already in front of us?
No, they're at 182. We're at 183.
I think. Well, then we're 4 and 5 either way. So I think the team behind us is, or is it the Phillies that are right behind us?
So I have Mets at 249, Dodgers at 240, Yankees at 235, Padres at 195,
okay, yeah.
And then White Sox 183, and then Phillies at 182.
Right. So yeah, if they sign Castellanos, then they'll pass us. But I mean, it's still it's going to be a top 10 payroll going into the year. Mm-hmm. And so $180 something million, that's the money being spent. Right? You can argue with, I don't like the way the money's being spent, but I think you need to change the narrative of Jerry's cheap to Rick Hahn didn't appropriate the money properly. Right? I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing to say. There's no reason that Craig Kimbrell needs to be on this roster, right? Like if that is if there's no money left at 183 and that's why you can't sign Conforto, then that's because you chose to exercise an option on a guy that, I mean, Jesus, I knew you couldn't trade him. Like, if I know you can't trade him, the GM should know you can't trade him. So, like, of course, like, there's reason to say, hey, I don't like the way that we've laid out this money. We have spent the money, but the way that we spent it was maybe, not the way that I would have. However, there's still time.
Yeah.
We're not at the beginning of the season yet. So maybe he has a way to trade Craig Kimbrell, right? Maybe the money goes up to $200 million and he has some guys that he can get. Like I'm not going on a limb and saying like Rick Hahn messed this up at this point, but I'm certainly going to be critical of him, of some of the changes or some of the things that he did, some of the reads that he made on the market, right? I mean, I think we could all argue in hindsight that, yeah, you probably should have extended the qualifying offer to Carlos Rodon. You probably should not have.
Rodon.
You probably
That's
should
a
not
Rodon
have
guy.
picked up.
We picked all the great guests. All
probably,
five guests
you probably
want
should
Rodon
not
back.
have picked up the option on Kimbrel. If you're going to spend $7 million on a second baseman, why wouldn't you just keep the guy that you have that is a switch hitter when you said that you wanted to get more left-handed? Instead, you go out and get Josh Harrison, who's, as far as I know, right-handed. And so, correct. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of these things where you're like, did you misread the market? And there's too many of them to really feel confident that if they are going up to $200 million, that the last $17 million will be spent appropriately. And we can all probably agree that $17 million is not enough to get Conforto. So I think, while you're at the point of, I think I got dinged.
Their time's up. Thank you for your thoughts.
They're starting the Oscar music.
No, I'm saying you're correct.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like we have to just change the narrative if we're going to complain as Sox fans. We can't go with they're cheap. We have to go with, you should have spent this money better.
I mean, their handedness, both in the pitching staff and on the batting on the lineup, is ridiculous.
It's offensive as a lefty.
Like, it's all pretty much all right-handers, and as Josh brought up, the lefties they have in the lineup are switch hitters. Yeah. So, like, to have an actual guy, except for Gavin Sheets, who I don't know how many bats he's going to get, that are not just actual lefties, like giving you that type of a at bat from the left-handed side, it's weird. It's very odd for a team that's competing for a championship to be so right-handed, both in the pitching staff and on the batting order.
You forgot Zach Collins. Vinny,
Stop it.
when
you
talking,
should forget Zach Collins.
You should. First at bat in spring training, he goes down on 4 pitches, which is, makes sense. Vinny, let's go out. We don't have to trash on Zach Collins when we go out to you, but when talking to Rick Hahn about left-handedness or just handedness of the team, has he mentioned anything about their philosophy, their theory, or why they are so right-handed dominant?
Well, I remember this conversation dating back a while, right? I mean, I think this has been a thing for a few years now, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like I've heard Rick Hahn ask this question, for some time. And I think, again, if I'm not mistaken, the answer that he typically gives is one that makes sense, which is ideally you'd like to be balanced, right? You would want that balance, and I think that's everybody would agree with that. But I think also he points to the fact that, and Tony has too, your right-handed hitters are good, and I think that's, it would be one thing if, Jose Abreu and Tim Anderson and Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert were only good against one-handed pitching. Or the whole lineup plummeted every time you faced one certain hand of pitching. But those guys are all-star caliber hitters, and an all-star caliber hitter has to be able to hit both hands of pitching. We talk a lot about the Vaughn Sheets platoon, and we'll see how that works out. Who knows if it'll even be a platoon if they grow in their second years in the big leagues and are able to kind of level out those splits a bit. I think it's a matter of what would be ideal, and do you want to blow up something that seems like it's a good thing just to achieve one other thing that you also, in a perfect world would exist. I don't know how good of an answer to that question that was, Sean, but my point being that, there's a lot of, as there should be, because the expectations are what they are. There's a lot of nitpicking that goes on because those small things make the difference at the end of the year, as we saw when the White Sox were eliminated in the ALDS last season. But as we go into the season, if you're happy with what that lineup looks like, the R or the L shouldn't matter as much as the rest of the letters in the guy's name. That's my thought.
For sure. Yeah, and I just wanted to know because, lineup construction is interesting to me, and I know that you look at Conforto. I think that he would thrive in Sox Park, but we've talked about this on the podcast before. The idea of when the Sox spend money, it's, I think, in the wrong positions. Like, you go out and spend $72 million on a catcher. I love Grandal, don't get me wrong. You go and spend $54 million on a closer. I love Hendricks, don't get me wrong. But those two guys combined together would give you around, $120+ million to spend, which could upgrade right field, could upgrade your DH, who's going to see 600 at bats. So Do you think that he's mismanaged those assets when it comes to Grandal and Hendricks, or are you fine with those signings?
I'm less concerned with him going and saying, I see this opportunity to go to the top of the market and grab the best guy available for this position and shore up that position. I've got no problem with that. The problems I have is when it seems that he's misread what's going to happen in the market, right? I mean, like, second base is a good example of that. Like, it definitely seemed like he thought there was going to be players there that were going to be available to him. Maybe he thought Trevor Story was willing to switch from shortstop to second base, which I guess now he's saying he is, now that the money ain't there. But so, I mean, like, there's scenarios like that where you look and you say, did he misread what was actually going to be available, or what people were going to take, or what people were going to be priced at in these areas? And if that's the case, that's more concerning to me than him going and saying, the best catcher is available. We need a catcher. I'm paying top market to get this catcher who's awesome. I got no problem with that. Give me that all day. And if you're looking at a game, if you're sitting there watching, you want the best closer. Right? Like, you want a guy who's going to come in to, like, some really kick-ass music and run down there and go out there and just throw strikes and get people out. Like, that's what you want. So, yeah, pay all the money for that. Like, I have no problem with those things. It's just when we get to points where we're like, we're at at these decision points of, okay, we need to make a decision on if we're going to keep this guy or not. And you look at the market and then you misjudge it. That's where I'm more concerned. And that's what we're seeing this offseason with right field and second base so far.
Well, even in closers too. I mean, like, before you jump in, Herb, Kenley Jansen's still out in the market. Like, Kimbrel, if he was cut, they bought him out at $1 million. He still might be on the market right now.
He probably would be, or would sign for far less.
Right? Yeah, and I think it's not a problem to strengthen a strength. So getting last year Kimbrel from the Cubs was a good move. No matter how the results turned out, getting the best closer in the National League to pair with the best closer in the American League, awesome move. But like you said, I think he misjudged the market, and he knows his owner. He knows that Jerry's going to only allow him to spend a certain amount of money. So if you know that, yes, go and get some relievers. Go and get Joe Kelly. Go and get Kendall Graveman, but also save some of that powder so you can go and get the right fielder and or DH. You know that these moves have to be made under Jerry's budget, which is, he's not cheap, but he has a number that he wants to spend, a number that he gives to Rick, and Rick has to follow those numbers. Because does it look like he's going to spend anymore? It looks like it's over. Well, if he does. That'll be great, but it doesn't seem like they're in a rush to do it.
Let's say they're going to give him to $200 million, right? And he's got like $17 million left. Like, was signing Joe Kelly to put him on the IL the best move? Maybe not, right? Like, I don't know. And so we don't know all these things, but, like, you can kind of read into it and see, like, what is available to him. Like, I can't believe that Rick Hahn would spend his last, what was it, $9 million on a guy that's we don't know when he's going to pitch.
Nerve damage.
Like, so, yeah, I mean, with the Bummer had that injury, right? I mean, like, in Bummer's whole season was trashed. Like, we can't Calvin Herrera this again if that's the last money you've got to spend. So, like, either he has more in the tank to spend, or he blatantly mismanaged that money.
Well, and let's get some quick hitters. Just yes or no. We saw some signings last Friday after we did our show. Josh Harrison, Vince Velasquez, and Joe Kelly. Vinny, do you think they add to the team over the weekend? Yes or no?
Just in the next 2 days?
Yeah, just in the next 2 days before Monday, because Herb was predicting a signing yesterday, and then he brought this up yesterday that we saw signings last weekend, so maybe there'll be signings this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not going to put a time frame on it, but I think the answer in general is yes.
Okay, Herb?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna say no again, so they can sign some people because it happened last week.
Our guest, Chorizy.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say they somehow trade for Austin Meadows over the weekend.
Ooh, Jesus.
I'd love that.
Cooking with gas over here. Damn.
Sign me up for Austin Meadows. That was our great guest, Chorizy-E. You can follow him on Twitter.
Bringing the wolf.
At Chorizy. That's Chorizy. Thank you to Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. And thank you to Vinny out in Arizona at Vinnie Duber. Go check out his great work at allchgo.com. We have a free article up there. He talked to Tim Anderson about Jose Abreu's future. That one is free, but all of our members can enjoy Vinnie's great work out in Arizona by signing up to be a member at allchgo.com. Thank you to Chorizy-E for stopping by. Go check them out from the108.com. at From the 108 on Twitter. I'll be in the 108 tournament tomorrow. I'm going to go kick Winkle Jones's ass. Let's go.
I'm voting for the other guy.
I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean
I'm still
_W
salty.
_Anderson. Yeah, shout out to Shane for beating
job,
you by
Shane.
0.2%. This is the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Again, for Herb, for Vinny, for Chorizy, I'm Sean, and we'll talk to you next week here on the CHGO White Sox podcast.